we were just discussing what it is we're going to talk about tonight. And we're going to start, at least, with the question of free speech. In my mind, one of the things that we have to be aware of is everyone has rights. And someone's rights to say what they want are very, very important. But at the same time, someone else's rights to feel comfortable and be able to live a reasonable life is also very important. And I think we're beginning to see examples of that on the college campuses today. So that's kind of the introduction. Um, my understanding of what's going on in the colleges today, and admittedly I am not totally up to date, is that there are major protests about what's happening to the civilians in Gaza. And I will say up front, it's horrible what's happening. Children should not starve. At the same time, members of the Gazan community fighting a guerrilla war, which by nature means you hide behind uninvolved people, started the most recent issue on October 7th. You can go back a ways, and there were provocations which caused that, etc. So one of the things that I think we want to talk about, at least initially, is at what point does my right to protest and assemble violate someone else's right to feel comfortable in living and doing legitimate, accepted things? So that's my bit. Anybody want to pick up?
Yeah, I'd like to pick up. You have to. Everybody has the right to say what they want or say something, not necessarily what they want, but say something. And other people also have the right to say what they think. And when it becomes frustrating is when the two sides disagree with each other so completely, then it degrades into a reasonable discussion versus shouting and then essentially inevitably violence. So,
if I can put my 2 cents in. First of all, I'm a little bit leery about being called an old fart. I wonder if there is and I know I'm challenging history, I wonder if there's an outside possibility that we choose or is it too late to choose? You're the senior man here, so it's going to ride in your part. But anyway,
After 200 episodes, this is it.
This is it, okay, and this is it for the. So I am an old fart no matter what I do. You too are an old fart, all of us. At any rate, once again, I sincerely think that this whole issue boils down to what is happening in the Middle East, what is happening to the war between Israel and the Arabs. And I don't, no matter where you start in today's world, just about everything hinges on what is going on there. I do feel I agree with you, a lot of sympathy for the people there who are suffering. I don't know, and I don't believe that all of it should be laid at the feet of the Israelis. I do think that the Israelis are doing what they had to do. They're protecting themselves. They're answering what has happened to them, which was sad to begin with. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, not any of us know what's going to happen in the very near future. I understand that they're poised to enter, what do they call that section in
Hezbollah.
in Gaza? No.
Rama.
At any rate, where the Arabs are supposedly located. It's coming to a head. It's coming to a big head. I don't feel as though Israel should be blamed for it. At any rate, no matter where you start, no matter what you want to talk about in the world today, you end up in the Middle East, and if you're in the Middle East, you're in Gaza. And at any rate, that's it. What do you think?
I because I can't remember the name, I forget things. Bob, what's that small section down in the
Rafah or something like that?
southwest corner of Gaza?
It's the second, I think it's the second largest city in Gaza.
Rafat?
Ramallah?
Rafat.
Rafat.
I think
Rabat.
it's Rafat. I think it's Rafat.
Okay.
Okay.
What
But
is
I
it?
could be wrong.
Rafat is what it said. Yeah. Okay.
That's all. I think it's restrictive, too restrictive to simply say the Middle East, because, yes, in the Middle East, it's right now it's Iran and it's its allies fighting Israel, but Iran and its allies are also fighting other countries in the Middle East. It's a Sunni Shiite type of thing. And not only are the people in the Middle East, some of the Arabs, I don't know, they're also attacking countries in Africa. 5,000 killed here, 3,000 killed there. It's happening. It's happening all over the world, and so it's very difficult to just say it's an Israeli Shiite war, because it's more complicated than that. I was reading a book. It was the book I was reading. It was a Shiite Christian war in Lebanon. Lebanon used to be a Christian country, and they were basically kicked out. The people in Gaza could end the war today by turning in the hostages. They still have the hostages. It's 6 months now, and I think they want to keep the hostages to keep the war going, as opposed to ending it. They're not trying to end the war. They're trying, I'm sure the people who are not Hezbollah would love to see the war end. They're starving to death, and that's horrific. But and I guess I wonder, why can't the 2 million or so people that they claim are there go after the Hezbollah to return the hostages? Because
What happens if somebody says, that guy over there is Hamas? Does the guy over there shoot them? Or shoot their family? Whenever you're dealing in a guerrilla warfare situation, it ain't easy. The poor SOB who just wants to live his life is caught in the middle. And part of the reason why October 7th happened, and it was filmed, and it was put on social media so everybody could see it, was to generate the response that Israel did. Plus Israel has their own set of a-holes, excuse the term, who would be perfectly happy for the civilian population of Gaza to go away. So you have two radical groups that I think are very happy to have the war go on until there's a conclusion.
they're happy with the status quo.
Yeah.
Colleen.
Yeah, please.
Hi.
Hi. Well, I guess in just response to the initial part of the conversation with the college campuses, the right to speak, and then we're talking about Israel. I think I'm looking at it a little bit in a broad way, where I think that kind of what has happened is there's a breakdown in peaceful living. We have an admonition to live peacefully as much as you can with your neighbors, and there has been a breakdown in that. So on the college campuses, they're used to having debate and lively debate and conversation that doesn't always agree, but it's an agreement between them silently probably that they're going to talk peacefully, and now they're not talking peacefully anymore. And when things break down in Israel with Gaza, they were living peacefully together. The people were living there. They agreed to let them live there, and then something happened, the breakdown in the peaceful agreement to live together and stuff. So, and of course, there's always advantageous, or people that are trying to take advantage of a situation. So, the powerful people that want to, perpetuate and stuff, the unrest, they're going to continue to make it even more unpeaceful. So, until people agree to be peaceful again, it probably won't change.
I was
Where
just going
is
to say,
where's Chuck?
He's in the middle up there.
Chuck, where are you?
I'm right here.
We need your comment.
I want to back up a little bit because, as most people may not know, that we do have a Zoom meeting, some of us, on Wednesday mornings. And it ranges anywhere generally from 3 to us to maybe 3 or 4 of us, sometimes 5. And we did have a meeting this past Wednesday, was yesterday, and there was 3 of us there. And the topic about Hamas and this topic came up early on. And one of the things was brought up, and I can't remember if I brought it up, one of the things that bothered me is the fact of some of these people saying death to America. And I felt that these people who are saying that, particularly as being non-citizens, they should be deported ASAP. And somebody else in the group said, well, they're protected by free speech. And I have a issue with that, whether that is in fact the case. First off, because they are not a citizen to begin with, but secondly, that the First Amendment does have some exceptions. And often somebody says something about the not yelling fire in a movie theater. I'm not talking about that, but I pulled up earlier, shortly after that meeting on Wednesday, I pulled up looking for what speech isn't protected by the First Amendment. And it lists a few, one being defamatory speech, truth threats, and fighting words are not covered by the First Amendment. And I would say that, in my mind, the truth threats as well as fighting words, that's what death to America to me means. And I think these people who are saying these things as a non-citizen should be booted out.
I agree.
What about the ones who are citizens?
Well, I think they should be penalized in some way. Whether they're, but I mean, do you not, Bob? You have no problem with these people saying death to America?
I don't like it, but it depends on the circumstances. When they start to at least
Have you seen some of these people doing it?
I can remember back in the 70s.
I'm talking about in the last 2 weeks.
No, I have not. I have, in fact, heard some of the commentaries about what was going on the college campuses, and I think I've got a little more sympathy for the president of Columbia than I did when I first heard what happened. But again, speech is the person who's speaking, the person that they're speaking to, and then the people who hear the speech that are not directly involved. And
Well,
you know,
I don't want to cut you off, Bob, but
Okay.
I want to see us.
Right.
just dragging on. I wanted to bring that aspect up. I think we can debate, but I mean, I'm reading what it says in the Constitution,
Right.
not what you like it to be. And
right.
that's where I'm coming from. And
I think
Chuck-
it's very real.
Chuck, does the Constitution say that people who violate the First Amendment should be deported? I can understand. I can understand putting them in prison, but you know, you're saying they should be deported, which you know.
that's my opinion.
Fine, it's your opinion, but you know, and
Your
I'm
opinion
not,
probably is
I'm
your
not
opinion
saying
probably is to kiss him on the cheek.
I'm not saying I disagree with your opinion, but I'm saying that we'd have a very difficult time doing it in a court of law.
Well, there's another factor that you have to accept. Not everybody who's yelling death to America or kill the Jews or whatever they happen to be yelling are people who are not U.S. citizens. Many, the vast
Yeah, and that's his point.
well,
Go
no,
ahead,
but there are U.S. citizens there. A couple of weeks ago, my daughter has a foreign exchange student who happens to be from Jordan, and he's a Muslim, and he wanted to go see Harvard. So they drove up, and we went down to see Harvard. And while we were there, there was a peaceful, very peaceful demonstration going on. And I guarantee you that many, I don't have percentage numbers, but I guarantee you that many of those people are U.S. citizens. And probably most, if not all, were students at Harvard. At what point do you go through and grab this guy and say, oh, you don't look American, I'm going to arrest you, and if I find out that you don't have voting card, off you go.
I don't agree with that. Well, you know, they're not going to go and like you're not American or you know, the person who is being very vocal and yelling and screaming with regard to and possibly acting against American interests in America, I think should be not just reprimanded. I think they should be removed. I think, if I read you correctly, what you're saying is that everyone should have a chance and they should have an opportunity to say whatever it is they hear. I think that, as I agree with Chuck, if they're being that vocal and they are not American, then I can see every right that they should be removed. I mean, being.
What about all the other people doing the same thing or possibly
If they are
worse?
American, then yes, you can. I would imagine you can accept some of that. If they're American, they have a certain right. But if they're not American, they're on American property, and they're saying that, then I think that they should be removed.
Well,
I got to ask this question, Bob, of you,
Right.
because it bothers me many times. Do you try to play the devil's advocate on most issues?
Yes.
not
It seems
most.
to me that you take the opposite position.
He's not-
And I think you do that just to irritate me. I don't know if it irritates anybody else, but I think it.
It's not that irritates you. Multiple people.
Well, you haven't
No.
asked any of the other people whether that irritates them.
One of the things, and yes, I do on occasion take an opposite position, but I will tell you up
Not
front
because,
now.
but I'm saying
Yeah.
not because you believe it. You're doing it just despite of whoever's talking.
I have been known to do that. I will accept that. But right now, I'm telling you, this is a firm belief. Number one, the law says that except for voting, you have, if you're in the country legally, you have all the rights that a citizen would have. So to separate somebody out and say, "Oh, you're here because your daddy gave Harvard $1 million," so if
We're
you're
not
not going to
talking
be
about
nice,
that.
get out.
We were talking about people who are in the country illegally.
Well, there's no indication that the people we're talking about right now from Colombia
That's not true.
are
You're not
illegal.
true. You're making
That's
that
not
up.
true.
Are there some? I
agree with
have
him.
not heard anything
Yes,
that said that
I
they were illegal.
Definitely.
Well, I think you're watching too much of the
more than
left
just one
screen.
university.
Well, no,
I just
it's
want to. I
extended.
don't want to. I don't
Yeah.
want to take. Alman is looking to get his piece in.
Okay.
The other thing I just wanted to throw out there is I object to your opening words, Bob, in reference to you saying about how terrible it is that these children in Palestine are being killed with, and not saying anything of the Israel's children who have been killed also. So, anyways, that's I just
If I
wanted that
failed
piece
to
in
say
there.
that, I apologize.
Yeah.
I was trying to make
Okay,
the
that's
point.
good enough for me.
Okay.
Let Oman speak.
All right.
Let me reframe the whole thing here. First off, I will say that there is no excuse for terrorism, and if there is terrorism, you need to do something about it. Israel has right to do that, and they are doing it. But at the same time, in this country, we have free speech. No matter how you cut and slice it, there is free speech available and allowed. And so, as long as free speech is within the limits
Within limits.
within limits of civility, and you are
Yes.
able to express your opinion and not trample on the right of somebody else and evict them or throw them off the roof or something, up to that, before that, up to that point, you should be able to say something, no matter whether somebody likes it or not. But at the same time, you don't have a right to trample on somebody else's rights. And at the same time, as long as civility is there, opinions are expressed, discussions are had, and move on. But at the same time, then when you get to the Palestinian, when you get to the Middle East, jump into the Middle East, what you can see is that we cannot ignore the situation that Israel has the right to defend, but then you have also what is happening in Gaza because of what the Israelis are doing. But the question then is, what are the limits what Israel can do? And now, one thing I just wanted to point out is, you have a model without Hamas in the West Bank, and you see that Hamas is in Gaza, and while Hamas is in Gaza, they have created a society built around the idea that Israel has to be driven out into the sea. But at the same time, they also drove out the Fatah party from Gaza, so that you have West Bank without the presence of Hamas. They are there. So to conflate Palestinians with Hamas becomes an issue. So you have to separate that as well in order to make sure that we are dealing with issues in a concrete manner. That's where I'm going to stop, and I'm going to talk about something else a little later. How complicated it is when you go to Middle East.
Can I point out something? And let me start, in case there's any question in the audience. I am Jewish. I am a Zionist. I've been a Zionist basically as long as I can remember, which is a long time. And I believe in the Jewish state existing, if for no other reason, so that I have a place to go if things get bad. So let's start there. But I can tell you
Excuse me,
that.
Bob. Excuse me, Bob. I can't help but interrupting you. At the same time, I remember you saying that you're non-practicing as Jewish.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Nazis didn't care.
Well, I'm not sure if that really, if you're not a practicing Jew, how much can you really care about some of these issues?
I am a cultural Jew. I am more observant of most of the laws than many religious Jews.
Okay.
What I do for my reasons, and it's really not important. The reason I bring that up, and I'll stop in real time, is that there are segments of the Israeli government, which, by the way, is not the most popular government or parties in Israel, but they're in charge right now, who are driving peaceful Palestinians who are just trying to live their lives out of their homes. If this were Poland The Ashkenazi Jew would call that a pogrom. Come in, drive everybody out. Ethnic cleansing is another way of looking at it. So, and the net result is that if there was an election through the Palestinian territories, Hamas would win in a landslide because at least they're fighting back. The problem has got to be, and here, the last thing I'm going to say for the moment at least, is it is the extremists on both sides who are creating the problem. And as long as the extremists can be in charge or at least up front, even if they're not in charge, then the problem will continue. And until we get rid of the extremists, and I don't know how to do that.
I don't agree with you with regard to the people of Palestine, except the God help me, my memory. The ones that are the ones that are causing the war, that have done this. I can't believe that they are the Palestinians accept them. Am I making any sense? I believe that those that are making war. God help me, my memory. That are making war, they are the ones that are to be challenged. And I think I strongly feel that the Jews have every right to respond as they did, and I think they still have the right to continue in spite of the fact that they are hurting the Palestinian population. The Palestinians started oh God help me.
I just want to help you here. You have Gaza,
please.
where Hamas is, then you have
Hamas
West
is what I
Bank
was trying to think
where
of.
Hamas is not. So you got to just separate the two. And what Bob was talking about, he was talking about how so-called pogroms happen on West Bank, where Hamas is not.
Yeah.
We can go ahead and say anything you like.
Well, what I was trying to express is that they are the ones who undertook
Yes.
the war. I can't believe
Yes.
that the Palestinians are completely in accord with Hamas. I don't accept that. I haven't seen anything that has said that. So I give Israel every right to respond. They were attacked in the first place, and God only knows how many of the Jews were killed. I think they have every right to respond and to carry the fight all the way to the end. They are making exceptions, or my understanding is that they are doing what they can now to get the innocent people out of the way. And I don't know what more they can do. They do have to defend themselves. They have been challenged. Now you have Iran, who is on top of them, and I understand that there's a possibility of war going in the north of Israel. There's another back and forth with Hezbollah. Yeah. So I give the Jews every right. I think they have to defend themselves. They have been attacked in every instance. At any rate, what do you think?
Well, for one thing, there's a difference between Jewish people who are blood and Jewish people who practice the religion. So you shouldn't say everybody who claims to be Jewish has to.
No. Every Jew that is in Israel.
I wasn't talking to you. I was
sorry.
talking to Chuck, because Chuck, you equated that because he wasn't practicing the religion, he wasn't Jewish, and I take offense.
I didn't say he. I
Yeah,
didn't say
you
he
did.
I didn't say.
But I took
didn't say
offense
he
to
wasn't
that.
Jewish. I didn't say he wasn't Jewish. I said I wanted a clarification of his position. That's all it was,
What-
which he gave me.
I saw it as irrelevant. I'm sorry, but that's neither here nor there. I see the problem as much more expansive than just simply the Iran and its followers attacking Israel, because I see it as a worldwide problem. You know, they've killed many more people in other countries than they've killed in Israel. Now, just think about the war in Afghanistan. They had Shiites fighting Sunnis after everything was basically over, when and that went on for years. The war in Afghanistan was Sunnis, and now once we left Afghanistan is a disaster. So they keep attacking other groups all over the world, not just Shiites or Sunnis. Both of them keep attacking all over the world, and I see that as a major problem. Okay.
Okay. Colleen, do you have any other comments that I want to throw out?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Let me just make a comment. I think that was very edifying when you were talking about women. Before, women sat down and talked to each other, and even though they might be diametrically opposite, they still sat down and talked. And the change in that has been, I miss that, and that's a very cogent observation.
Thank you.
Can I throw out, this is a theory with some factual backup as to what happened why October 7th happened. The Abraham Accords, there are very few things that I will give Donald Trump any credit for, but he did organize a conversation between various Arab groups and Israel. And not only did a number of the Arab countries join in, but the key country, Saudi Arabia, was negotiating that they might join as well. Part of what was going on was not, Israel's here, they're prosperous, they've got a lot of technology, let's trade, let's talk to each other. Part of this was also, we all hate Iran. And this could be seen as an anti-Iran organization gathering. And Iran, to protect itself, encouraged some of its proxies, Hamas included, to do something about it. And Hamas, their idea, because of what they did, that I talked about earlier, was to put Israel in the poorest possible light. You kill children, you rape the women, you put it on social media, and you expect everybody to say, oh, well, they're just being extreme. They want us to react strongly. We aren't going to do it. So they say, okay, we'll do it again until you do. Once the reaction begins, a number of bad things happen, including women and children dying, etc. Nobody cares about the men, oddly enough. Women and children, that's what
They're
we count.
expendable.
Yes. That's a subject for another
It's a good topic, as a matter of fact, yeah.
But what has to happen is people have to identify, as Paul was saying, it's really complicated. We have to identify that there are groups who, for whatever reason, are trying to disrupt.
Why do you think Iran hates Israel?
Why
Could
don't
it
they?
be? Could it at the very base? Could it be a religious difference?
Of course.
Possibly, or maybe
Is that the actual base of difference between so many different peoples, is it the responsibility? I mean, if the whole world was one religion, do you think we would see this kind of animosity
We
in
would be
so many
pissed
different
about
areas?
something else. Remember Dr. Seuss
Yep.
and the Sneetches?
No, I don't remember the
Okay.
secrets. At any rate,
It's a very instructive story. People can look it up.
Just I wanted to interject here
Yeah.
about the religion, that if you had all people Christians, you can see that also doesn't solve the problem, because there will be Christians fighting amongst each other. You just have to listen to various TV folk who talk about how the other Christian denomination is really not Christian. So you can see that does not solve the problem, because religion by itself has an emotional component to it that can be used to drive people against each other, against whole humanity, and kill. And that is what is happening. That's why in the Middle East you have this charged battle where there are different religions. You have Jewish, you have Christians, you have Muslims, and within Muslims you have Shia and you have Sunnis. And there is, as Bob pointed out, there is this power struggle. Why is it that that Iran is being neglected, and the Sunni folk are coming up, including Saudi Arabia? So Shia do not want to lose. So naturally they will throw some incendiary bomb in there. That's what they did, and that's why it becomes more complicated now. Now not only is now Iran involved. Iran supports China. Iran supports China. China supports Russia. So you have within Middle East these different parties. They do not support the religion, but they have interests that they can use as proxies to fight against U.S., fight against Israel. So that's, I don't know what the solution is. Maybe Paul has a solution or Colleen has a solution. I do not, because it's so complicated.
I have the solution. I think about the Kingston Trio song, and they're rioting in Africa. This piece, I don't know if any of you remember that song, but the final solution was, someone will set the bomb off and we will all be blown away. That was the solution.
if everyone was of the same religion, according to what you're saying, Alanan, there would still be factions and differences. Okay.
Yes.
So so war. In effect, what you're offering, what you are offering is that mankind will war no matter what the circumstances are. So war is an absolute part and parcel, almost a necessity of life on earth.
Yeah.
In other words, regardless of whatever religion, whatever creed, whatever color, whatever anything, there will still be war. That's what you're saying.
Look
And
at
you may be right. I don't know, but I don't want to think that way.
I will give you an example. Look at France. France had Protestants and Catholics fighting until the king declared Catholicism would be the religion. And look at that's what our friend pointed out about the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire, and
Yep.
how those were also based on religion. And
Yep.
they were fighting with each
All
other.
through history.
Yes, and so I don't see the solution. That's what my problem is,
So,
and I agree.
So
Look at nature. Every species fights within themselves as well as outside of themselves. Even those that don't kill each other. Gazelles out in the savannah will fight.
Yeah.
Various herds will
Yeah.
fight with each other. It is nature of life. Good, bad, or indifferent, it is what
So-
it is. We need to figure out how to deal with it.
So the real problem is, how do we change the very being of man? how can we convince him, or what can we? Maybe the answer is religion.
It's, I think,
Even, we're making a great effort to throw religion out, especially today. Science and is just absolutely wonderful. The cell phone it's answered every problem, and yet it has, in my estimation, it has created. We're at war more now than I think we have been in a long time.
And that
I'm sorry,
explains
I
why
didn't mean to
gazelles
interrupt
fight with each other. It's science. And it's natural. Unless you
Yeah.
are willing to give up and let AI do everything. I mean, the people will fight with each other even with AI in charge. So we'll get rid of all the people, we'll put AI up, they'll eliminate all the other animals and insects and whatever, and then we'll have a peaceful planet.
and
Go ahead.
and I'll go after a group to kill all the AI people.
Okay.
No,
I
no,
join.
seriously, it really is a problem with education. Education, you have to educate everybody, and I think the lack of education is really being demonstrated in the United States right now. People are doing things that are just no one would believe it would ever happen, and I don't know. I don't see a possibility because the IQ is for human beings is widely separated. There people with very low IQs, people with very high IQs, and everybody's always trying to take advantage of somebody else. And I think that part of human nature is what's hurting everybody.
Colleen, you said you have a solution.
I did not. I have an observation. I think that what we're looking at is there's nothing new under the sun. It has been, people do not want to have other people rule over them. They want to be in control of their own lives. And however, whatever shape that takes, it doesn't matter how many people are trampled in the process. They have a lot of pride. They don't want anybody to rule over them. They don't want anybody telling them what to do. So this is how these conflicts continue, and they have a hard time resolving because nobody wants to come to the table and relinquish something. You know what I mean? So even if there was, it breaks your heart to see young, children and people involved that are innocent in these things, but it's the powerful people that have the will. They don't have the will to change it. They want to be the ones in charge. They don't want to give up on anything. So you end up sort of coming to the table, and then then they just go backwards again because the pride doesn't allow the people in charge to perpetuate and make it stick.
The foibles of being a human.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's where Bob's point
Chuck,
comes
where
up,
are
is
you?
extremists. That's what Bob's point comes up, is that as long as extremists are in control, there are the rest of the folk are pushed away and not allowed to get together, not allowed to generate peace or peaceful atmosphere. So extremism is what causes a whole bunch of problems.
How do
And
you
I
do
will stop
it?
talking.
Omanat, who would you consider the extremists?
I don't know which. I mean, you're right now. As I pointed out, extremists, for example, right now would say drive all the Palestinians into the sea, or Hamas side would say drive all the Israelis to the sea. So those are the extremists who are in charge. That's
So
what I'm saying.
are you saying Hamas is extremists?
Yes.
Now, where's Hamas getting most of their money?
But that's what I pointed out earlier, because there is this whole Middle East, which is so complicated that Hamas is supported through Iran. Through Iran is involved with China. China is involved with Russia. So you have all these players, and don't forget that when you have all these actors and people have money, and Iran has a lot of oil. They sell the oil to rest of the world, and they get the money. They have the wherewithal to support not only Hamas but also Hezbollah. Although they don't like their ideology, but they can use them as proxy, and that is what causes a whole bunch of problems throughout the world.
In my mind, Iran is the number one issue here. They're the one that's supplying Hamas. They're supplying Yemen and some of these other countries with money. They're benefiting some ways and some connections specifically with China because they're supplying China so much oil.
Yes.
Now,
And drones,
also,
and drones to Russia.
right, and we're also very complicit in a lot of this too, because we've been supplying lots of money under the Biden administration and before under the Obama administration to Iran. Millions and millions of dollars we've given them.
Yep.
And we've given money to Hamas or Palestine to be able to build their infrastructure in their country.
Yep.
And they haven't done much of that at all. They've used it to get arms, and they've used it, and they've also taken the time to educate the children of Palestine,
Bravo.
to
You're
the
right.
Jews, and to kill the Jews, and that's where a lot of the money is going. And if in fact we didn't give monies to Iran and support them, they were in big trouble prior to Biden taking office. And whether you want to believe it or not, that's a fact. And they're so blessed in their minds getting money from this country that helped bail them out.
One point I just wanted, before I don't want to cut you off, I just wanted to point out one thing, is that even some political agents in Israel supported Hamas to counterbalance what was happening on West Bank. So it's that's why Middle East is so complicated. Up to a certain point, Hamas also was supported because they were a counterbalance to West Bank. But now, once that support was provided, they then took advantage of that, and then they launched their own campaign.
So you're saying that Hamas took advantage of the money they got from Israel? Is that what you're saying?
Israel and Qatar. In part, the money came through Israel with Netanyahu's knowledge and support to Hamas. The idea being, if we give them the money, then we can control the situation.
Where did the money come from?
Some of it from Qatar, some of it from Israel, some of it from Iran, some of it from various other Arab countries.
It is so complicated.
Yeah.
Maybe it's too. If you keep phrasing it that way, Omanan, why are we discussing it if it's so complicated?
Because there are other folk who are involved in negotiations, and I am hoping, well, not only hoping, I hope they know all this and are negotiating with all these glasses on, knowing that these are the elements. That's all I'm saying.
Well, in addition, why are we talking about it? Because we vote. And the way, at least the United States, at least for the moment, the way you influence what the country does is by who you vote for. So this discussion, hopefully, will have some meaning. May not.
So how many wars were we in before Biden took office?
How
many wars were going on?
Probably 100.
There were 11.
100. Yeah, that's an educated guess, Paul.
But I want to get back to you said Biden gives Iran money.
Absolutely.
What?
Yes, he did. That's right.
How? In what?
He was returning monies that they had impounded earlier. For one thing, and there were some other instances. I don't know exactly.
It was
Chuck, go ahead.
It was Obama. It wasn't Biden. Number one, and number two, it was
Biden released the money.
Right.
No, actually, it was shipped in cash. If you remember, as part of the the uranium deal, they gave the money that was Iran's actual money. It wasn't something we gave
Yeah,
them.
it was impounded.
It was impounded. It was their money that
Yeah.
we said the banks couldn't send back.
Right.
And part of the deal was Iran gave away their uranium, their enriched uranium, and they got this money. And the deal was that maybe 20 years from that point, maybe they would have a bomb. But there was also inspectors coming in saying, are you enriching this beyond what you need for atomic power? So, and
And
Obama.
they said, no, we're not doing
No.
that.
No,
Not
but the
right.
inspectors were looking at it. So, and in fact, the inspectors were saying, yeah, it's within reason. Maybe they're doing a little more than, but it's within reason. And then Trump said, bad deal, we're done. And suddenly, Iran said, the only way we're going to survive is if we have our bomb. Now,
That's not
oddly
true.
enough, they didn't buy a bomb
it
from
is
North
true.
Korea, which would have been the smart thing to do, but they started to further enrich their uranium.
As we speak today, the assumption is that they do have
Sufficient
they
uranium
have
for
not
2 or 3
announced
bombs.
it, but the assumption is
Yeah.
that they do have that kind of power.
I'm not
And
sure, Pat, that
thanks
they-
to, in part, thanks to the monies that our president returned to them,
It
which
wasn't that-
certainly
well,
helped a lot.
Again, it happened a number of years ago. It happened
No,
under Obama.
I'm talking about monies that were returned during the current administration.
There wasn't any money, to my knowledge, that we hadn't already given them. So what was going to be returned?
I remember.
I think
reading
we
that-
need to do a little research on this to
Okay.
see who's right here.
It's more fun to argue without facts.
At any rate, yeah, go ahead. I don't. I mean, there's a lot that can be said. Once again, I just wonder about a world. I wonder about a world without war. The worst of it would be that we wouldn't have a program if we didn't have these wars to talk about. What would we talk about?
Oh, we'd have lots of things to talk about.
For example,
I
what
just-
would
Men
you
versus
like?
women. This will be a show someday.
I just
rate-
wanted to I just wanted to point out that before Iran was sending out the so-called mercenaries throughout the world, as Paul pointed out, there is this Saudi Arabia. They have a track record of funding, real funding with real money. All their folks who would go out and be terrorists, and they supported it for a long time. And that's how we have Islamic terrorism, which has proliferated over the last 50 years because they continue to give money. And the United States, because we support Saudi Arabia, we look the other way. And although it's right there, we know that that's happening, but we have not done anything. Why are you doing that? No.
One reason is we import oil from Saudi Arabia and those countries because the oil that we do export, we don't refine any of our own oil. We export it because the refineries are not sophisticated. Our refineries are not sophisticated enough to refine our oil. So we export our oil and we import oil from the oil belt, the Middle East oil belt.
Excuse me, Paul, you're saying that we don't have to, our plants are not sophisticated enough to purify
I don't
our
understand
oil?
that.
Correct.
There are various
I've
grades
never
of oil.
heard that.
There's
I've
various
never heard that.
grades of oil, and I think it's the fracked oil that is so dirty that we can't deal with it. In addition,
Which oil?
the fracking, North Dakota, etc. Another factor is when the pandemic happened, the oil refinery companies did not increase their capacity because they thought oil was going to be a dying source of energy. So
I
they
don't know
began.
where you're getting that information, Bob.
Well,
I think that misinformation you're having is popping up.
I will. That I think I can find and send to you in the next day or so. But
Okay, I look forward to seeing that.
But the nature of things is, we say the U.S. government, we say the French government, etc. The governments, because of the nature of our democracy, are not really in control of the detail of what goes on in the world. More control is the international corporations. And a perfect example of that is Dutch Shell. Holland, the parliament in Holland passed a rule having to do with climate change. And it would have forced Shell to do some things because they were a Dutch company. So they moved their headquarters to England. And now they're Shell Corporation. The same thing could happen with Pickett.
I don't understand that. You're saying that they have the power, or they have.
They control their environment more than the government controls their environment.
When you say there, who is there?
The corporations.
The corporations
international
have more
corporations.
control than we realize.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure.
As a matter of
I wouldn't
fact,
be so absolute about that, Bob.
well, I'll give you an example. It just popped in my head. It's a little bit old. But when Cuba went through the revolution and they got Castro, and part of his deal with the Cuban people was he was going to give them land so that they could farm. So he nationalized a bunch of corporations and land in Cuba, and the international corporations who land he nationalized went to the American government, which, by the way, had been supportive of Castro up until that point, and said, look at what he's doing. He's a communist. Back in the 60s, being a communist was a bad thing. And suddenly the US government was anti-Castro and forced him into Russian partnership.
Yeah. Well, the Castro problem is actually Major League Baseball. If he was drafted by the Senators, and if they'd only he was a pitcher, if they'd only let him pitch, he never would have been he never would have gone back to Cuba.
Yeah, but Che Guevara would have taken over. If the problem is there, somebody will find a way to be there. If you're not aware of it, I don't like Trump, but Trump is not the problem. It's the people who he said, I will represent you. All these bad things that have happened to you, I can fix. And that's how Trump became the leader. If it wasn't Trump, it would have been somebody else. The need for a leader was there.
There still is.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
And thank God for Biden.
That's why we have elections.
So what is the bottom line of all this? We are going to continue, and if it isn't one war, it will be another war, and mankind will continue to fight, and people will continue. I mean, it's almost, we need it. We have to have war to generate production of any kind. We need war for a lot of reasons. So
We
I don't
need
know.
war for progress.
Pardon me?
We need war
We need
for
war
progress.
for progress. Yeah,
Because
that's
if you-
exactly what I was trying to
Yeah,
express.
if you look at what changes in society, particularly scientifically, but other ways, during a war and during
Yeah.
the period of war,
Creativity, it goes way
yeah,
up.
there are. Catherine, don't listen. Nothing is all good and nothing is all bad. If you look hard enough, somebody will benefit from almost anything, and someone will get hurt from almost anything. And war is a similar thing. Look at,
So what you're saying is it's inevitable that we're going to be at war. Mankind will continually be at war.
as all of life is continuously be at war.
Right.
We looked at nature.
There is.
It doesn't matter whether you're red or brown, you're fighting with somebody.
Yeah.
And part of the problem is we're a herd animal, and so we want to be part of a group. And how do you put a group together? You can talk about love all you want to. It's easier for everybody to agree, I hate him.
Yeah.
We all agree we're part of the group.
Yeah. So what should we do? So, what's the next program going to be about?
Men versus women.
No, I think that's a little,
I-
it's a little
no,
unbalanced
I
there.
agree with you. I think that war is inevitable,